guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be jumping in on Chapter 11 of the Explorer Academy, The Nebula Secret. This is brought to us by National Geographic Publishing and written by Trudy Truitt. If you have your book and you wish to join along and read along with us, you can start on page 100. If you don't have a book, that's great too. You can just listen. "Doesn't anybody know where we're going?" asked Towson, nervously twisting the end of a black pigtail. "Just our driver, and he's not talking," Sailor, who was sitting behind the driver, said with a sigh. Unable to coax him into giving up any info, she flopped back into her seat. Earlier that morning, the explorers had received a mysterious message from their fitness and survival training instructor. "Dear explorers, our regularly scheduled fitness survival training class at 10 a.m. has been rescheduled for this evening. Please assemble in the academy lobby at 7 p.m. Wear your regular workout gear and sneakers. Bring a jacket and water. L'Aventure vous attend. M. Legrand." Seth Mahler, an explorer from Luxembourg, told them L'Aventure vous attend means adventure awaits you. So not much of a hint there. And it was Taryn, not Monsieur Legrand, who'd met them in the lobby, ushering them out the front door to a pair of vans parked at the curb. All she would say was, "Your instructor is waiting for you at your destination." She gave them a wink. "Enjoy." Monsieur Roman Legrand was one of Cruz's favorite teachers. Cruz loved hearing about his outdoor adventures, and it didn't take much convincing to get the Frenchman to recount his harrowing experiences climbing K2. He had almost died of altitude sickness. Trekking across the Atacama Desert, he almost died of desert fever, and cave diving in the Yucatan cenotes, he had almost died of the bends. Oh, and he was once an aerial performer with Cirque du Soleil. He had almost died when a ribbon snapped. Cruz figured Monsieur Legrand probably had something risky up his sleeve, but what? He glanced out the window at the colonial-style brick homes rolling past. The sun was beginning to dip behind the trees as they turned off the main road. A mile or so later, Cruz saw a deer crossing sign, soon followed by another sign, Rock Creek Park. Everyone suddenly began talking. "I bet they're going to drop us off in the middle of the forest and we'll have to find our way out," said Renshaw. "You mean we're going to be here all night?" groaned Dugan. "Well, it's called fitness and survival training," said Emmett. "I guess this is the survival part." "We'll have to live off the land," said Zane. "That better not mean eating any bugs," gulped Sailor. "I'm a vegetarian." Cruz chuckled. Less than 2 hours ago, he'd seen the girl cut into a hunk of meatloaf. Since when? Since now. The van snaked through several miles of thick forest, then turned off the 2-lane road onto a rocky dirt path. They rumbled over bumpy gravel for another 5 minutes before coming to a stop near an old railroad tunnel. Cruz was the first to jump out of his van. Clouds obscured the stars. The only light in the area came from the other end of the abandoned train tunnel about 60 yards away. As they walked through the round passage made of stacked river rocks, Brindis glanced around. Not crazy about this. Cruz was beginning to feel on edge, too. He felt a chilly wind on his shoulders. Goosebumps twizzled up his arms and neck. He could hear water dripping. When they emerged from the tunnel, Cruz shielded his eyes against dozens of bright lights. At first, he thought it must be a stadium, but then he realized they were in an open field. Spread out before them were various pieces of equipment, hurdles, monkey bars, a cargo net, and a real rock wall. "It's an obstacle course," cried Cruz, relaxing. "This is going to be fun." "Yeah, fun," said Emmett flatly. The course was surrounded by an assortment of computer screens, speakers, and projectors on tripods. A tanned, lean man in his mid-30s with deep-set blue eyes and shoulder-length streaked brown hair stood at the edge of the course. "Welcome to Rock Creek Park," said Monsieur Legrand. "You are probably surprised to find such a large park not far from the academy. It covers more than 1,700 acres, so we should not be disturbed in our hidden meadow. The park has a zoo, a planetarium, a horse center, and even a few secrets. The most intrepid explorers can find piles of stones here that was once part of the original Capitol building. However, tonight you will not be exploring. You will be competing in what we call the Augmented Reality Challenge, or ARC. It's a real obstacle course with a few virtual surprises thrown in." There was a chorus of excited gasps. Jovan, their fitness instructor, motioned to an older boy to come and stand next to him. Cruz knew the boy right away. He'd never forget Big Deal, the kid who hassled him in the lobby on the first day. Jovan spotted Cruz, too. "Hey, California surfer dude," he called like they were close friends. Cruz raised a hand, then quickly dropped it. "You know my brother?" Renshaw was beside Cruz. "That's your brother? Hey?" Monsieur Legrand began explaining how the game worked. You'll each put on a set of elbow and knee pads and a helmet. After you navigate the course, a computer inside the helmet will generate virtual elements. It will be your task to complete all the obstacles, handling whatever real and virtual challenge come your way. Fall or fail to do one, and you're out. Whoever clocks the fastest time wins. "Where's the finish line?" asked Zane. "The rock wall," answered their teacher. "Once you get over the top, the chip in your helmet will stop the clock." "Don't be upset if you don't make it through the course," added Jovan. "Few first-year recruits do." He adjusted his elbow pads and pulled on a shiny black helmet emblazoned with a yellow A. Giving them the thumbs up, Jovan jogged to the start line. Monsieur Legrand motioned to the large screens mounted at the end of the course. "The helmet's computers are connected to the screen, so we'll be able to see exactly what you are seeing as you move through each challenge. Jovan will do a few obstacles to give you an idea of what you can expect, but don't form your strategy based on his experience. Each run will offer different virtual components." Jovan flipped the visor down over his eyes. "Ready," he said, his voice cracking from the speakers behind him. Cruz made a note to remember there was a mic in the helmet. The explorers turned their eyes to the screen closest to them. The picture also included a clock in the lower tower, so they could keep track of Jovan's time. Monsieur Legrand put the whistle to his lips. When he heard the tweet, Jovan hit the start line, tripping the digital timer. They watched him charge toward the first obstacle, a straightaway of 6 hurdles. He glided gazelle-like over the first 5 bars. As he approached the final hurdle, something appeared in his viewer. It was a crystal goblet. The glass was precariously perched on the top of the right side of the hurdle. Jovan had only a second to correct for it before taking the jump. As he went over, his knee nicked the hurdle. Cruz and the rest of the explorers let out a collective gasp. The glass wobbled, spilling a bit of the water, but did not fall. Jovan hurried to the next station, the monkey bars, but these were no ordinary bars. The sides were curved, not only from side to side, but up and down too, making the whole thing look like it was melting. Jovan scampered up the ladder. Grabbing the first bar, he swung out to catch the next one and moved swiftly from bar to bar, left and up, right and down, left and down farther still, right and back up again. Cruz was impressed with his upper body strength and agility. Jovan had made it about halfway across when his viewer showed something flying toward him. Bats! Unsure if they were real or virtual, Cruz let out a shiver. Jovan didn't panic. He lowered his helmet and hung on with both hands until the last bat had flown past. He swung his body a few times to get his momentum going again and made it to the platform on the other side. Monsieur Legrand blew his whistle. Everyone clapped. Cruz got it. The virtual elements were distractions. Ignore them. Keep calm. Keep going. You'll do okay. Thank you, Jovan. Monsieur Legrand looked to his students. Now it's your turn. Oh, there's one more thing. Uh-oh, Emmett muttered to Cruz. Here it comes. You will not only be racing against the clock, said their instructor, but you will be racing against each other. You will do the obstacle course in pairs. Emmett and Cruz stood together to indicate they were a team, but Monsieur Legrand had other ideas. He held up a small black velvet bag. In here are 2 sets of numbers from 1 to 12. Pick a number, find the person with the corresponding number, and that's who you'll be racing against. Cruz stifled a moan. Cruz hoped he picked a high number. He preferred to watch how the other explorers handled the course first. Cruz dipped his hand into the bag and felt several wood chips. He grabbed one, then at the last second exchanged it for another. Pulling his hand out, Cruz opened his palm. The round chip had the number 2 on it. Rats. People began pairing up. Emmett and Zane, Renshaw and Sailor, Allie and Brindis, Ekaterina and Tao. Soon, only one person besides Cruz stood alone. Dugan. He held up his chip. It had a numeral 2 on it. This time, Cruz did moan aloud. Renshaw and Sailor were first. As they lined up at the start, the picture on the large screen split so the explorers could see a side-by-side view from both competitors' helmets. Monsieur Legrand blew the whistle, and Sailor and Renshaw were off. Over the first 3 hurdles, they were neck and neck. Sailor took the lead when Renshaw tapped his toe on the 4th bar. It did not topple. As they bounded to the 5th, a gust of wind blasted them from the left side. Bits of sand and rock almost completely obscured their vision. Renshaw crashed into the hurdle. He was out. Sailor stumbled, but recovered and made it over the last 2 hurdles. She climbed the ladder to the monkey bars. Leaping from the platform, she grabbed the 1st bar and swung to the 2nd bar, then down to the 3rd, the lowest bar on the apparatus. "I hear something," she said. Her helmet tipped down to reveal a pit of hot, bubbling lava licking her toes. "Ah!" Sailor shrieked, her swing slowing. She kicked her legs out and shifted her grip. She was in trouble. "Come on, Sailor, fight!" Cruz tried to will her forward. "Bloody lava!" They heard a second before Sailor fell to the cushioned bag below. Stalking back to his group, Renshaw ripped off his helmet. "I can't believe I tanked on the first obstacle, the first one!" "Nice try, Renshaw," said Monsieur Legrand. "Bon travail." "Good effort." Jovan slapped his brother on the back. "But sadly, not good enough." Monsieur Legrand was calling for the next pair of competitors to get into position. That was Cruz and Dugan. On his way to the starting line, Cruz got a good look at the course. Hurdles, wavy monkey bars, horizontal cargo net, tunnel, pond, rock wall. They passed Sailor on her way back to the group. Dugan snorted. "Way to blow chunks, York." A fuming Sailor locked eyes with Cruz. She gritted her teeth. "Get 'em." He lifted his palm. She slapped it, hard. Cruz eased his helmet down over his ears and took his mark. "Better enjoy the view now, Coronado," spit Dugan, "because in a few minutes, all you're going to see is my dust." "You wish." Giving Dugan his best game face, Cruz popped his visor down. He put his toes on the line, took 2 deep breaths, and gave himself a quick pep talk. Focus. Keep calm. Go fast. Tweet! Cruz shot out at the start. Pumping his arms, as he raced toward the hurdles, he kept his eyes forward. He flew easily over the first 3 hurdles. On his way to the 4th, he saw something to his left. It was moving. Were those polka dots? Cruz turned his neck slightly. Whoa! It was a cheetah. The sleek gold cat with dark spots easily paced him. The animal wasn't attempting to attack. He was simply running alongside as if Cruz were another cat, and the 2 were bounding through the tall grasses of the African savanna. Unable to break his gaze, Cruz smacked the final hurdle with his foot. The metal bar didn't topple, but watching the big cat has cost Cruz valuable time. Dugan was now in the lead. Dang! His competitor already scaling the ladder to the monkey bars, Cruz charged after him. He was only a few seconds behind. If he could keep up, his best chance of passing Dugan was on the cargo net. With Dugan 2 bars ahead of him, Cruz swung out onto the first of 8 bars. He moved like a pendulum, catching each bar almost as quickly as Dugan released it. His shoulders were starting to burn. His body felt heavy. Boom! Was that a thunderclap? It began to rain hard. Torrents of water ran down the front of Cruz's helmet, blinding him. As he caught the 7th bar, his finger slipped. With a grunt, he clamped down on the metal and forced his hips forward. He knew if he stopped swinging, he was doomed. Just 1 more bar. He only had to go 1 more. Gritting his teeth, Cruz summoned as much energy as he could and flung himself forward. His foot caught metal. He let go, falling to his knees on the platform. His visor cleared just in time for him to spot Dugan leaping onto the horizontal cargo net. Cruz followed, crawling across the net like a spider whose web had just ensnared a fly. He was making up time, too, when a virtual man in a safari hat leaned over the left side of the net. Holding a large hunting knife, the man began cutting the net away from its supports. Dugan had seen him, too, and was scrambling for the right corner. Cruz knew he had to go that way, too, if he hoped to reach the other side before the man cut the net free. But moving diagonally would mean he wouldn't be able to pass Dugan. Cruz pushed himself to go faster. He felt the rope slice the skin on his fingers and palms, his foot slipping on the netting, and he nearly fell through a space. As the man's knife sawed away at the last loop, Cruz jumped onto the scaffolding. Another close call. But he made it. Scooting over the side, Cruz dropped to the ground and followed Dugan, who was just heading into the tunnel. Cruz had to bend forward going into the circular passage to keep from smacking his head. Within seconds of entering the dark, narrow tunnel, Cruz's nostrils were on fire. It smelled like rotten eggs. Was that Dugan? Ew. Cruz's first instinct was to hold his breath, but he knew that was a mistake. He needed full lung power. Ahead, Dugan had slowed. He was coughing. By the time they came out of the tunnel, Cruz was on Dugan's heels. If he was going to pass, he had to do it now. Cruz made his move. He came up on his left. Dugan threw out an elbow to block him. He was too late. Cruz whipped in front of him and took the lead. He raced to the pond, leaping onto the lily pad closest to shore. He hopped easily from pad to pad. He was making good time and was 2/3 of the way across when he saw the dark green scales ripple. An alligator rose from the murky swamp, his massive jaws opening. Cruz saw teeth glisten in the light, huge, sharp teeth. The terrifying sight was enough to send him skidding to the edge of the lily pad. He couldn't stop. He was going in the water, real water. Cruz threw out his arms in a last-ditch effort to save himself, teetering for a second. Then somehow, miraculously, his body stopped moving. He leaped over the last 2 pads and onto the shore. Dugan was 2 steps behind him as they neared the final obstacle, the 30-foot rock wall. Jovan was waiting at the base to give them instructions for getting into their safety harnesses, but Cruz didn't need any help. He'd taken a climbing class with his dad last year. He stepped into the harness, pulled it up to his waist, and adjusted the belt. He grabbed one of the ropes hanging from the wall and clipped it to his harness. Glancing up, Cruz only took a few seconds to assess the situation. Experience told him it was important to first choose a route, a zigzag path of grips that would take him quickly and easily to the top. If he didn't, he could end up stuck under an outcrop and have to drop to the bottom and start all over again. Dugan was not as cautious. He was already climbing. Cruz put his foot on the first grip, reached out for one above his head, and pulled himself up onto the wall. He tried to move steadily up the jagged face, but the higher he scaled, the farther apart his grips were. Plus, it had been a while since he climbed. His arms aching, his fingers bleeding, Cruz had to stop and rest more than once. Meanwhile, Dugan was about 8 feet above him. How did he get up there so fast? What is he, part monkey? Cruz knew if he didn't pick it up, Dugan was going to beat him. Come on, come on. Cruz stretched for a grip, a fraction of an inch beyond his fingertips. Just a little more. He felt a tremor, then another. Cruz looked up. A wave of gravel and rocks were tumbling down. He hugged the wall as a torrent of stones, boulders, and debris fell around him. 15 seconds later, the rock slide was over. Determined to finish, Cruz reached for the next grip. He didn't look down, he didn't look up. He stopped worrying about where Dugan was. He kept climbing, kept searching for the next grip, and the next, until, at last, Cruz dived onto the top of the rock. He was on his back, and every single muscle was screaming in pain, but he'd done it. He made it through the obstacle course. Helmet still on, Cruz flipped up his visor. Above him, the clouds had parted, revealing a pale yellow full moon. Cruz sat up, still gasping. He looked for Dugan, ready to congratulate him on the win, but his opponent wasn't there. Cruz peered over the edge. Dugan was dangling from his rope near the base of the wall and scowling, his face redder than a fresh strawberry. So if Dugan was down there, that meant, woohoo! Cruz thrust his arms overhead. He had won! From his perch, Cruz could see all the way across the meadow. His classmates were waving and cheering. Clinging to each other, Emmett and Sailor were wildly jumping. In his ear came Monsieur Legrand's smooth radio voice with a French accent. Excellent, Cruz, excellent. Thanks for listening. Next time, we'll start Chapter 12.